let me introduce my love, my friend. Congratulations, I'm super proud of you. Super excited to officially read your book, and super excited to hear what you chose to read tonight. So put your hands together for Stephen Kent Mirassou, 6th generation.
Thank you, Nancy. I didn't know it was going to take that to get you to cry a little. But thank you.
Once a year.
Once a year. I better start writing again. Thank you all for being here. I'm Stephen, and this is I do a lot of these kinds of, I do a lot of talking to people about wine, and I love it. And it has come very naturally to me over the years. I know what it is I'm supposed to be talking about when I'm talking about wine. I'm in a really different space right now. This is an amazing moment for me. I'll tell you a little bit about how the book kind of came to pass, and talk about the people who really were instrumental in helping me to get it to where it is. And we will over time, if you choose to buy a copy of the book and read it, we'll talk down the road. Because this book writing, reading is like winemaking. If you don't have a conversation with somebody else about the thing that you're reading or tasting, they don't really exist. You know, you've got to have a receptive audience, I think, in order to have something that truly lives. Whether it's something literary or something vinous, you've got to be able to talk about it to people, or it's just this thing that may have happened in your imagination. Most of you probably know, who've been around the winery for a while, that when I was in high school going off to college in the East Coast, I told my father that I was never going to get involved in the damn family business. That there was nothing that was compelling enough about wine at that point in time to cause me to stay in California or to think about being in the business as a professional once I graduated and once I got back to California. I studied literature, American literature, as an undergrad. I have a master's in literature, and my kind of profoundest hope and dream, I hate that terminology, let me try it again. What I hoped would happen, and now it might actually happen, which would be really cool. I lived in Manhattan when I went to NYU, and I would go up the 1 train, which went sort of north and south up the west side of Manhattan Island, and I'd always have a paperback in my back pocket, reading constantly as I would go from Christopher Street Station up to 72nd Street or wherever I was going. And I always imagined the coolest thing that could happen to me would be that I'd see somebody doing what I was doing, but with my book. And I'd had this opportunity to see somebody reading something from Stephen Mirassou, and that would be the most amazing thing. And I still believe that would be the most amazing thing. I wanted to be a writer before I came into winemaking. As much, I get a tremendous amount of pleasure making wine, and I'll talk a little bit in a second about how I think that winemaking and writing are really the same in a way. One of the things that's most compelling about the wine side of my life right now is I get to work with a bunch of amazing people. On the production end of things, Aiden Mirassou, my son, raise your hand, Aiden, 7th generation family member. Beth Refsnyder, our superstar assistant winemaker, raise your hand, Beth. Both of these people play a prominent role in the book, and they play a much more prominent role in my life in terms of helping me to realize a creative vision, to realize a vision for creating something that's special, something that lives and breathes, something that gives people pleasure from the wine side. And I can't imagine 2 more passionate, excitable people, especially when we're talking about wine, than those 2. And the fact that they're the next generation is a really special thing as well. That what the Lineage Collection has to offer, what we're looking to accomplish as winemakers, is held in very good stead with these young, passionate people. So thank you 2 so much for helping me realize these visions. They're the support team, which really is a team that kind of runs everything that happens here from a hospitality standpoint. Nancy Castro, my love, Jennifer, Patty. I'm not going to see everybody.
Yeah,
Sharon's
no.
here. Obviously, Aiden, Matt Toomey, and there are other folks who you, if you've been around, know. Janice and Chris, and a lot of longtime friends and people who help to bring the wine drinking experience and the experience of Livermore Valley to life. And we hope that you've enjoyed your time here at the Lineage Collection, and we look forward to seeing you back again. Over the years, I would pull a typewriter out every now and again, or a pad of paper usually, and I would write down stuff that seemed interesting to me. I'd write down, sometimes it'd start with just a phrase. When I was studying, the period of time that I really loved was sort of 1900 to 1950 in America. So it was the time of Faulkner and the time of Fitzgerald and Hemingway and Willa Cather and the like. Those were authors that I loved. I would think about things I thought then in somewhat of a literary fashion, and I'd write phrases down in a notebook, and I'd embellish, and I'd talk about. I never was much of a journal writer, but I would write short stories, and I would do certain things. And over time, probably 20 years or so, I had like 15,000 words, más o menos. And I remember sharing the sharing that with my father. Where are you, Dad? There you are. Generation 5, Steve Mirassou. I think and my mom, Lynn, Generation 1. I think we were in Mexico at the time. They live in Mexico half the year, and we probably were into our 4th martini, I think, if I remember properly. And we were talking about how bad some of the family members were at doing their jobs, their basic functions. The 5th generation, really, my father's cousins and the like. And I think my cousin Mike, who's here too, was probably involved in these, certainly involved in these conversations, of not that exact one. And we were talking about opportunities the family had missed over time. Opportunities to buy 1,000 acres in the Napa Valley floor, but instead we go to Soledad because that was really going to be the place to plant grapes, especially Cabernet Sauvignon. That didn't work out very well. But we were talking about this, and I told him, I've been writing a little bit about the family business and that guy. Let me send this thing to you. So I sent it to him, and I didn't know that this was going to happen, but he read it and he sent it to a friend of his, Tony Kilgallen. Tony, he's here as well. And Tony has a TV show in Napa, and Tony sent the manuscript to a person named Paul Chetko, who I didn't know, and I got an email from Paul saying, hey, you can write okay, and if you finish this thing, I'd want to talk about publishing the book. And that was shocking, because that was something I'd hoped for 25 years ago and didn't think it was really going to happen at this point in time. And Paul has become a great friend, even though we've actually met in person only twice. COVID will do that kind of thing to you. We've talked on the phone many, many, many times. Paul's an extremely talented writer in his own right, and has the Val de Grace Publishing Company, which is the publisher of Lineage. And I just said, go and write. And so over the course of 12, 14 months or so, I would go to my office in the evening after work and just sort of write. And I would listen to Miles Davis, and I would drink gin or scotch or some combination thereof, and eventually get to a place. And Paul was extremely helpful in helping shape the book and help clarifying thoughts and keeping me on track and helping me to create something that was more of a story rather than just bits and pieces of stuff put together. So Paul, raise your hand, please. Tony, raise your hand too. So I have this project has 3 stepfathers. My father, my blood father, and then 2 of my other fathers here, without whom this thing never would have happened. And Paul assembled an amazing team of people. Connie Wang, who is an emeritus professor of design from San Jose State, who helped to actually design the book. And we think that not only does it read well, it looks mighty pretty too. This is a goal, has been a goal for a long time. I think one thing I've learned about this process is that you only have a limited number of days to do the things you want to do with your life. That if you don't if you don't aggressively seek the things that make you the happiest, then you're missing out on what could be the true gift of living a life well lived. And I know for me, one of the things that has come from this experience is that this is not going to be the last thing that I do. This is not a box checking. This is not a what do they call that? What's that? Bucket list. Thank you. Yeah, it's not a bucket list thing. This is just the first. And there's a lot to talk about and a lot to write about, a lot to try to communicate. I was talking about wine and writing. Winemakers and writers, I think, are storytellers. They want to communicate to people. They want to be able to share what it is that's meaningful about an experience or meaningful about what they do. And just the vehicle is different. Just the thing that expresses that idea about sharing and creating something in common. As long as I'm able to do punch downs and write, I will do both. So I'm hopeful that you find the book worth reading. I'm going to be over this table signing books. If you'd like to come up and get a book over where Jennifer is, and come on over here, and I'd love to sign it for you. Pouring some 07 Lineage as well. I'm going to indulge hopefully indulge your attention for about 2.5 minutes. I want to read a few paragraphs from the book that are actually the last 3 paragraphs of the book that I love, and just to give you a little bit of a taste of what this thing is about. Let's see if I can jumble this here. Okay, so there is no more beautiful landscape than a vineyard at its most full. There isn't any other greensward with more promise, more mystery, and more hedonistic delight. Where I am now, higher up, I can see the ordered rows laid out as they run away from me, hugging the curve of earth to a single point at the far margin. Rays of green leaves, greedy for light, laden, heavily pregnant, and promiscuously heavy with the stuff of 45 Mouton and 61 Cheval Blanc. Though I get a sense of the continuity of the family business when I'm in the cellar or on the road traveling from one market to another, I feel it most keenly here. I'm not sure why. I grew up away from the vines and became a man in big cities, but it is in the middle of the vines, alone and perceptive, that I feel most consequential. It's in our vineyard this evening on the eve of the harvest, when the last light comes in on the horizontal with all that life surrounding me, that I realize there's no finer place for a summing up of life to this point. This vineyard is the place where my wife's ashes are spread, as it is the place I fell in love with my fiancée. It is the synecdoche for all things of humble and perfect worth, just as it is our family's site. In the fading light of the day, if you squint just so, you can see this place shimmer and become the vineyard my thrice-removed grandfather first planted 160 years before in San Jose. In the soft warmth of the rising night, they have become one and the same, planted by the same men, the connective tissue of time raveling in both directions, finally meeting after more than a sesquicentennial adrift and apart. There are inevitabilities. Empires will fall, and the ones we love deeply will pass. The rows will keep going forever, though, meeting down at the horizon beyond our sight. The fruit will be suspended in the joyful and warm and full yellow of summer always. The winemaker's shadow, his, mine, my child's and grandchild's, will hang out long against the earth in the late hours, and the life around us in this refuge will vibrate and buzz and fill us to breaking. We will kneel in the rows in the warm shade of day's end and be clothed by green leaves, and we will plunge our hands into the fecund soil as we feel the ocean-pushed breezes cool our shoulders. And we will know again that we are ineluctably rooted to the green, ageless heart of the world. The end. That's just a little taste. Thank you all very much for being here. Really appreciate the support in all ways, friendship most especially. And thank you for being part of the family. Cheers, everybody.